We came so far from dreams. The path was hard for me. They thought we fall, you see. Well, look at us now, look at us now. We make it hot when we on the scene. Yeah, that's 1,000 degrees. I got a grind for me and my team. Yeah, you know we gon' eat. You see the crowds when we come around. You know that I roll with some kings. We shit it down, I don't hear a sound, but I ask you who better than we. Tell me who better than we. We soaring to places you never could reach. When we walk in that spot, don't hear none of you speak. Shh, do you want peace or the peace? A king about to put you to sleep. Listen, my team is elite. You not even qualified to compete. He starving, he barely can eat. I guess that's why he always itching for beef. So I put him on ice and I told him to chill. Close your mouth if you can't pay for the meal. Making statements that you know you don't mean. Nice guy trying to act like he mean. Keep it a buck, keep it a bean. Attitudes will put you dudes in the beam. Isekai, he don't live in reality. Shake back off, become a fatality. Yeah, how you gon' hate when you mirror us? He think he a star, he ain't serious. X him out, we not on the same frequency. If you broke, you ain't hearing us. Work the screw, anime, that's how I feel, period. We winning, that's making them furious. We make it high when we on the scene, yeah, that's 1,000 degrees. I got a grind for me and my team, yeah, you know we gon' eat. You see the crowds when we come around, you know that I roll with some kings. We shit it down, I don't hear a sound, but I ask you who better than we.
Yo, what it do, guys? It is your boy, Leon Mookie here, and I'm back with you with the other parts of What If Sora Was in Total Drama Island. For this part, we'll be focusing on that of the Killer Bass route. In that of the Screaming Gophers route, Sora was eliminated during that of, well, the team up, well, challenge after all. Hopefully that may change for that of this one. And trust me, I really do hope for my boy that he does. So, with all that said, let's get into this, shall we, guys? As for the team member that ended up basically being, well, replaced by that of Sora for the Killer Bass, Eva, actually. I know, surprisingly. Honestly, I was actually hoping for Ezekiel, but hey, the random spin has spoken, so yeah. Any rate, let's get into this. Shall we, guys? With Sora arriving into Total Drama Island, just like with that of the Screaming Gophers, Yen Sid sends him to the minor world of Total Drama to basically take place in Total Drama Island without his Keyblade, to test his abilities and capabilities without his Keyblade. He won't be able to use his offensive attacks and spells, but he's still capable of using his defensive spells. So I think he'd be capable of handling himself. Plus being physically strong enough to basically tank that of a lot of powerful attacks from, well, multiversal beings kind of says it all too, so yeah. And with him arriving into that of Total Drama Island, being part of the, well, Killer Bass, honestly, I think he would get along with quite a few of them. However, speaking of the first challenge, being the, well, dive down to that of the water into shark-infested waters, honestly, we all know Sora was going to be able to pass that pretty easily. He's done crap like this before, to be fair. But given that, well, DJ and Courtney don't dive, and given that of the Screaming Gophers a lead because Owen was able to jump, the Screaming Gophers get a cart to basically get them to that of the camp first to start working on the second half of the challenge, being making their very own hot tub. While that of the Killer Bass have to, well, had to drag their materials and everything else back with them by hand. I mean, I can tell that some of them may be struggling and crap like that. However, given that, well, Sora is able to pick up crap like this pretty easily, I think it'd be quite shocking for all of them, especially given on how scrawny Sora looks, to be honest. So with his help, they were basically able to make it through after all, but still were quite behind. It also didn't help that not a lot of them were in sync. But thanks to a pep talk from Sora, and with the help of Jeff, they were at least able to make it at least somewhat bearable and usable, at least. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but at least it was a little bit bearable thanks to Sora, and didn't fall apart like in normal timeline of Total Drama. So yeah, I call that at least a plus side. But even so, the Screaming Gophers had a way better hot tub, which basically gives them the win for the challenge. Which means they're going to have to send somebody home, which, again, is Ezekiel. Because, again, the fact that, well, again, he having that of sexist and dumbass comments after all. Not even Sora could basically defend that. Next up is the Awake-a-thon, which Chris basically forcing everybody to wake up early in the morning for a, well, jog around that of the island. Then after coming back, they had that of a full course meal full of food that can basically put people to sleep after all. And the last thing being that of having to stay up straight with the last camper standing from one team wins. And thankfully enough, Sora, well, let's be honest, just like with that of the Screaming Gophers one, Sora would definitely fall asleep pretty early on. Not too early like that of, well, Owen or Dustin Dustin pretending to have that of, well, stayed awake because he stand up with painting his eyelids after all to make it look like he was still awake. However, due to Sora replacing that of Eva, they don't have to deal with that of the bullcrap with that of the MP3 player though. But given that Duncan would basically fall asleep while basically using the bathroom and causing Gwen to be the last camper awake for that of the Screaming Gophers, causing the Bass to lose one yet again. Now I know you may be thinking, Leon, why isn't Sora not doing much or preventing loses? Let's be honest, Sora's always been the guy to act first and think things through later. And that's exactly what we love about him. But even so, somebody has to go for that of the Killer Bass. And deciding to be that of Harold, given that he wasn't really much useful, to be honest. And he hasn't really shown his usefulness, which could bite them in the ass in the future. But who could say? Next up is the Dodgeball Challenge, as each team has to have that teams of 5 go against each other. And with Sora here, this is going to be pretty much easy and basically a cakewalk. Not to mention, since Duncan is pretty much, well, MIA because he's too damn tired from the Awake-a-thon, Sora is mainly what everybody relies on. Sure, there was the time Tyler tried to show up Sora, but let's be honest, Tyler didn't do shit and just caused more problems than he solved. But thankfully enough, Sora was the one who carried basically the Killer Bass this time. And leading to that of the Screaming Gophers getting their first loss. And once again, just like canon, they basically get rid of Noah first go. Next up is the talent competition. And if I'm going to be completely and utterly honest about this one, this is going to be a cakewalk for that of the, Killer Bass. Sure, in canon, Harold was the one that came up clutch for that of them. However, due to Sora being here, not to mention the fact that he would prevent that of Courtney losing her violin, and mainly by preventing Bridget from basically, causing that of the unnecessary sabotage by, carrying that of Courtney and her violin out of that of the spotlight that could have fallen on them. With that, Courtney would be grateful for Sora, not to mention he would basically show off that of his skills, basically showing off that of his magic and, using that of a stick branch to show off a bit of his skills with that of his, swordplay skills, even without his Keyblade, which impressed Chef quite a bit, to be honest. Alongside that of, Courtney as well, giving the Killer Bass another victory. As for the Screaming Gophers, once again, just like canon, they get rid of Justin, so yeah. Next up being that of, the camping challenge. And honestly, this could basically go either way. Like, for example, Sora finds out that, Katie and Sadie basically go off on their own. He decides to basically go after them after all. Not wanting to leave people behind because, again, this is Sora. He's a good guy that always looks out for others. So it would make sense that he would be able to find them pretty easily. However, it's making it back to that of the Killer Bass that's a bit of a problem. as at first they would get lost, but thankfully enough, they would make it back to the killer bass, which in turn would prevent them from losing the challenge due to Katie and Sadie being lost and coming back last, which would lead to the killer bass losing and the Screaming Gophers winning. But this time, the whole team is now together. However, though, Bridget would basically still burn down their tent due to being hit with a bat after all, and accidentally, going to the campfire, knocking a stick out, and then burning their tent. But thankfully enough, Sora using a barrier spell to keep it up for them for the whole night. However, it does put a huge drain on that of his magic gauge after all. So thankfully, as long as he was able to get a good night's sleep even after when the rain finally stopped though. But they did basically had to sleep on the ground. Which once again, thanks to Sora, the killer bass were a lot more lucky. Not only being safe from the rain and able to at least get some sleep a little bit, but also able to make it back to that of the camp. So causing that of the Screaming Gophers to lose another member. And this time it would definitely be Izzy, given the crap that she pulled with that of her teammates with the whole pretending to be a bear and all that crap. But once again, the RCMP basically showing up and trying to catch her after all. So yeah, that all stay the same. But then again, that's when the whole, camping, them sitting at the campfire, talking about their greatest fears and stuff like that. With Sora basically saying that his greatest fear is losing his friends and not being there when they need him the most. With some basically calling him sappy and calling him basically childish, but it's just how he feels after all. Of course, this leads to that of the next challenge, basically facing their fears. Where, honestly, in the last part, I had it where Sora had to basically help everybody and for their fears with that of the Screaming Gophers. However, I think this one's a lot more interesting, given the fact that he's always the kind of guy that always try to help out his friends no matter what, given that he can't stay still. So what would happen if you did force him to stay still? Basically, while everybody is facing their fears, Sora has to stay in that of the boys' cabin for literally that of 30 minutes. He has to hold out mainly to... He can't leave that of the cabin at all. Like if he does or even steps even onto the grass or basically leaves out the window or anywhere else, then he fails then he fails out of his fear. But if he can hold out for that 30 minutes out, then he's good. Unfortunately for Sora, when he hears basically everybody struggling, unable to basically complete or basically, end their fears actually, Sora basically gave in pretty damn quick. Didn't even only lasted for that of, 15 minutes. However, to make up for this, he did try to help out everybody else on that of the killer bass after all. He helped out that of Duncan alongside that of, Bridget too, and even that of Jeff as well. By having Jeff basically stand in the hailstorm without running, saying that he's got his back no matter what. However, he wasn't unable to help that of Tyler with the chickens, because it was kind of weird, to be honest, even for Sora's case. However, he did help out that of Courtney with that of her gelatin fear, though, allowing her to jump into that of green gelatin, allowing her to basically, get through that of her fear, and getting that of the killer bass close to that of a win. Unfortunately, they still kind of failed because of Sora, though. But instead of Sora basically being eliminated, once again, just like in canon, Tyler got eliminated. It's because, again, who the hell is afraid of chickens? Next up is the canoe race. In between this race, honestly, I can see that of, Sora trying to help that of Jeff and Bridget become a couple, with even DJ trying to help out too. But going through that of Boney Island, Honestly, with the help of Sora and his defensive magic, I'm pretty sure they're able to break through pretty easily. And given that Harold isn't here, they don't bother basically burning, well, that of their ores after all. But thanks to Sora being an islander after all, he knows the best wood to basically burn that burns faster after all. So he brings that back. They win that of the first half of the challenge, the second half of the challenge before the last half, basically making it back once again. With the help of Sora, DJ, they were able to, well, win this challenge pretty easily. Which, once again, the Screaming Gophers had to send somebody home. And I feel like the more logical choice is definitely Cody, to be honest. Guy has barely done anything since that of the, well, dodgeball challenge. Next up is the deer hunt challenge. And, well, Sora is actually part of the hunting team for that of, well, the killer bass this time instead of a deer like he was for the Screaming Gophers. So, again, he kind of had a lot of fun with this challenge. However, he was a little bit uneasy, mainly because there was a darkness basically wafting off of every single Screaming Gophers member. And the source mainly came from Beth. Until he figured it out, he wouldn't act just yet. But even so, the killer bass gained the victory and were able to basically humiliate Heather. So I call that a plus side. As for the person getting eliminated, honestly, you could basically make an argue that either Heather or Beth basically getting eliminated. But given that everybody hates Heather, yeah, let's be honest, she's definitely getting eliminated. Next up, the cooking challenge. And, well, honestly, things can go a lot more smoothly, even more smoothly than that of, well, canon for that of the killer bass. Mainly because of, well, Harold not being here due to him already being eliminated. Given that the killer bass did all, basically were, well, mainly that of Duncan, DJ, and Jeff were basically playing pranks on him the whole time because of his, well, problem leaving his underwear everywhere in the boys' cabin. But since the nerd isn't there, and Sora is, things play out pretty easily. I mean, sure, there is the, well, back and forth between that of Duncan and Courtney, with Sora being a mediator between the two, and Courtney surprisingly listening to Sora more than anyone else, even more than herself, given how bossy and controlling she is as a person. As for that of the, well, Screaming Gophers, even though Heather is gone and Lashana taking control, using different recipes, things still don't go exactly as planned, which really, really pisses off that of the Bootylicious sister. So, of course, yeah, I can see her getting quite irritated and angry about everything, but not to the same degree as, well, Heather. With Sora trying to figure things out too, realizing that it's the Tiki doll. However, Beth tried to make a case that it's her good luck charm that she got from the other island 2 challenges ago. With everybody freaking out, even Chris basically telling her to not bring anything back from Boney Island or you'll be cursed. Which is exactly what happened to the Screaming Gophers this whole time. They've been cursed all this time. With Beth apologizing and going back to Boney Island to basically put the Tiki doll back. Which makes it easier when the killer bass win and they get that of a, well, 5-star meal under the stars for their victory. And the Screaming Gophers have to send someone home, that being Beth, for obvious reasons. Next up is the Trust Exercise Challenge. And honestly, this, well, I would have said that they could have won this pretty easily. Unfortunately, this could go either way. Sure, Katie and Sadie are here, but Jeff still loses DJ's pet bunny, which causes DJ to be in a slump before Duncan basically shows that he found that of Bunny, actually, which in fact he basically just drew that of a random rabbit back to camp just so DJ could seem like he got Bunny back. With both Courtney and Sora basically thanking, well, Duncan for being so nice to DJ after all. for giving him a new rabbit. However, it still basically cost him the challenge because he wasn't supposed to remove his blindfold after all, which disqualifies that of the killer bass and them having to send somebody home. And unfortunately enough, it ends up being DJ. Originally, I was thinking that maybe Katie or Sadie, but given that they were pretty useful for the, trust exercise, given on how, in sync they are as friends, so I don't think they'd be gone. But DJ, after that stunt, yeah, I can see everybody being quite pissed at that DJ. Next up is the Army Challenge, with Chef basically being the one hosting them and having to have them go through multiple military and boot camp drills. Sora would definitely handle this pretty easily given everything he's gone through, and would definitely win this for that of the killer bass. As for the person for that of the screaming gophers to basically be, eliminated, honestly, given on how much of a beating this team has been taking, I gotta say either Owen or Lindsay, and personally, gotta go with that of Owen. Next up being the last of the team challenges between that of Screaming Gophers and Killer Bass is the Extreme Games Challenge, where, again, given that the teams have to do that of 3 tasks of challenges, with that of extreme skydiving, then moose riding, and then that of mud skiing. So I can see Sora basically taking part in that of the diving challenge pretty easily. And given how hurt that the Screaming Gophers really need a win, I can probably see what's left of them basically trying their best after all, and would basically go all out on this, which even catches that of Sora off guard for once. And for the first time, and once again, getting that of the, Killer Bass to lose, as they need to send somebody home. And personally, I gotta say that of maybe Sadie or Katie, which guy has to be that of Sadie. And now it's time for that of the boys versus girl challenge, in that of the brunch of disgustingness, having to eat the most putrid and most, disgusting meals ever. And unfortunately, there are more girls than there are guys. So the guys have to basically have that of make a clutch victory for this one. If they don't, they're screwed. Which, given all the foods that they eat, Sora has no problem eating them, actually. As for the girls, they struggle quite a bit, to be honest. Not to mention given Courtney's refusal to eat certain foods too, alongside Lashana. But either way, the damage was done, and the boys win, no matter what, even with a tie-breaking, if I added that. So yeah. However, now it's time for the merger challenges, where every camper's for themselves. But of course, gotta bring back at least a select few campers after all. That being Izzy and also Heather. Because again, it's not a series without Heather after all. With the very first merger challenge being Say Uncle, basically going through that of torturous situations. And honestly, of course, Sora is able to handle this easily. None of these things could basically annoy the heck out of Sora. I mean, it might somewhat be a little bit of annoying, but nothing that would basically cause him to basically scream Uncle. Hell, even when he was basically put against that of Sasquatch, he would definitely end up getting immunity. Is what I would say if Lashana didn't basically, get immunity instead of him. But instead of everybody going straight after Sora, everybody decides to get rid of Heather. Again, not wanting to deal with her bullshit, which was the smart choice. Next up is that of the treasure hunt challenge. And once again, like I said before, I kinda lost that of my 20-sided die. And what I usually do with this challenge is, if Sora got a 20, then he gets immunity. If he got a 1, he basically gets automatically eliminated. But having to use that of a, digital spinner, and I still did the same. But in this time, Sora basically got that of a 20, which means he got immunity this time. Thank God. But a person still has to go, and that being that of, well, Courtney, which, damn, I honestly kind of feel bad that I basically had to remove Courtney. I know a lot of people hate her, but I don't have much of a hate boner for Courtney, unlike a lot of other people. Next up is hide and seek. And of course, Sora basically clears this one too. I mean, it's Sora. He's done crap like this before, even though he is kind of a big mouth, but still, he's able to make it. I would also say he gets immunity too, alongside that of Lashana. However, at this time, the person that ends up getting eliminated, though, Duncan. Sure, he would have tried to push that little alliance, but given that there's little to barely any guys, and a majority of them, well, are basically trying to eat in a couple, like that of Trent and Jeff being with Gwen and Bridget. Yeah, Buddy is gone. Next up is the bike challenge, where, again, Sora would basically dominate this, to be honest, given his experience working on that of the gummy ship, after all. So it kind of makes sense he would design a bike pretty easily for himself. However, he would have a lot of fun doing it with Lindsay, though, with the first half of the challenge basically focusing on, well, riding other people's bike, and the ones who basically make it through, whose bikes make it through, are the ones that basically go on for the final part. Luckily enough, Sora's bike, which was rode by that of, well, Lindsay, made it so. With the ones taking part in the final part of the, well, bike race challenge is Sora, Lindsay, Trent, and Gwen. I would say Lashana or Izzy, but given that they're basically who knows where. And just like always, whoever basically comes last crossing the finish line basically gets eliminated automatically. No voting, one way go. So they better make sure to get cross the finish line before the last person. With that, it basically becomes somewhat of a free-for-all craziness. Lindsay once again basically clutches each and every one alongside Sora, as the two are actually having quite a bit of fun with this challenge, to be honest. However, Trent and Gwen kind of got exploded, basically, and fell through each of the other, well, obstacles during the race, which destroyed their bikes, leaving only Lindsay and Sora. With Sora basically pushing through, getting first place, with Lindsay also taking that of second place. And of course, you would think, since the two basically made it, and one of them, and Trent and Gwen basically didn't, one of them are going. Unfortunately, the stipulations of Chris's bullshit, since Sora came first, and Lindsay being the last one to cross the finish line, since Trent and Gwen are out of commission, meaning Lindsay gets eliminated, not the other way around. With Sora basically complaining that that's not fair on her behalf, because she worked so hard, with even to the point that he was about to, well, get rid of his immunity and give it to Lindsay, saying that he doesn't really care if he wins or loses. This competition was just for fun, after all. However, Lindsay, seeing the kind heart within Sora, deciding to let him keep it, and she goes anyway. She had a great time, not to mention, she's grateful for meeting somebody like Sora as a friend. With the next challenge being, well, the facing against the escaped psycho killer with a hook challenge, basically the horror survival challenge. As everything basically somewhat goes the same, however, adding with that of, given that a majority of, well, people that usually would have stayed are now gone, as this kind of becomes, well, a Sora basically dominating each and every one of the competitions. He defeats Chef, who was basically pretending to be the escaped psycho killer. Then, with the help of Gwen, also defeated the real escaped psycho killer with a hook, getting them both immunity. However, the person that would be sent home is actually Katie, to be honest. She did not stand a chance, especially since she didn't even run into that of the psycho killer with a hook this time. But luckily, they were able to make it through. Next up is the hunting challenge. This time, basically gathering a specific animal. And Sora had to, just like before, basically get that of the raccoons, like in that of the screaming gophers route. And once again, it was basically crazy as hell, facing against that of a mechanized horde of, well, raccoons that basically made that of one giant ass robot. But again, nothing that Sora can handle. However, just like always, given that this was a hunting animals challenge, yeah, Bridget was definitely going to be gone. Because again, she cares about animals way too much, just like DJ. So of course she would be eliminated. Next up is that of, well, the Trust Exercise Challenge, which basically being paired up with that of somebody in the competition, where this time Sora is paired up with that of Trent, as the two basically work pretty well with each other. I won't lie, Trent does complain at least a little bit here and there, but nothing too serious. Guy's is pretty chill, to be honest. Hell, to the point that the two even talk about that of relationships, as he wants to, well, be a good boyfriend for Gwen after all. And still feels like the one thing that's keeping them apart is that one challenge where he accidentally forgot to, well, bury her out of that of the, well, glass when she was buried alive. With Sora, well, not really too familiar with romance or anything, but he does say as long as you show that you care and show that you still feel sorry for it and show that you still want to be there for her no matter what, that's all that matters. Mistakes happen, but you got to keep on moving forward. With Trent smiling, saying, "You're pretty cool, Sora. You know that, man?" But then Sora scratching the back of his head while still paddling the canoe, even though he only has one good arm, with saying, "Sorry." With that, the two can make it to Boney Island, where they have to, with everybody else, basically take the remaining piece that Beth forgot to basically, well, throw back to Boney Island, because she basically, well, kept one piece and basically flushed it down the toilet, hoping to get it back later on. Yeah, girl did not think things through. Which means having to go back to that of the prehistoric bullshit and craziness that is Boney Island, get rid of that of the tiki piece, and in the final part of the challenge, remember who has been eliminated throughout this entire event, throughout all of Total Drama, which was easier said than done, because again, Sora has horrible memory, after all, given all the times he's been beaten the crap out of through his adventures. It wouldn't be too surprising. Unfortunately, they weren't. However, thankfully, Trent was able to remember at least a little bit here and there, especially for that of the earlier half of the competition of Total Drama. So yeah, they still didn't get first place, but at least they made it a lot more through than, at least they got at least second, because first place goes to that of Lashana and Gwen. But the person that gets eliminated is, well, just like in canon, Jeff. Originally, it was close to Sora getting eliminated, just like before, but thankfully, he wasn't. So he's good again. With now time for that of the last competition, with that of the past campers basically voting who they want, who gets voted off, actually, which again is called bullshit, but of course, they gotta thin out the herd. And actually, the one who got eliminated is Trent. After going so far, he's kind of gotten farther than normal canon, so hey, gotta give dude respect for that. Which leaving the only competitors left being Sora, Lashana, Gwen, and Izzy. And of course, there's the whole, well, getting swept up by that of the rain because of, and Chris not really giving a damn about that of looking for them, which basically caused them all to be stranded and cross around that of the islands of Wawanakwa. So yeah, thankfully enough, with the help of both Sora and Izzy, they were able to find shelter and also find back to that of the campsite. Well, mainly the craft services tent for that of Chris and Chef. And of course, the bastards don't even bother basically giving them a place to stay before just sending them back to the campsite. Thankfully enough, nobody gets eliminated. But time for one of the few last competitions before the end of Total Drama, and that being the camp out between that of two teams. With Sora being, well, paired up with that of Lashana and Gwen and Izzy being paired up together. As they make it through that of the woods, Sora does pretty well for himself with that of the help of Lashana, even though Lashana isn't the biggest fan of, well, camping out as much, but still. Anyway, Izzy is basically carrying that of her team, given with Gwen. However, Gwen is making it through her own, given all the bullcrap she's gone through being part of Total Drama. In the very end, the team that basically makes first place is not Sora and Lashana, but Gwen and Izzy, with now voting off that of one more person before that of the final two challenges. And you would think that everybody would vote off that of Izzy, given that, again, she's too much of a threat. Nope. The one person that is too much of a threat is Sora. With the girls basically, well, teaming up together to get rid of that of Sora for the vote. Which, God, I kind of hate that, but I can see it happening with that of Gwen, Lashana basically convincing Izzy to vote Sora off. And Izzy is too damn scatterbrained and too easily impressionable to basically not say no. And Sora's too innocent and good to basically, well, do some manipulative crap like that after all. So yeah, big guy made it pretty far. But at the very end, he didn't win Total Drama Island. But all in fairness, he's basically enjoyed his time here. Made some pretty good friends, and honestly realized that without his Keyblade, he's not too incapable of handling himself. But he needs to know that his Keyblade isn't everything, that he needs to rely on himself and his heart more too. And in return, and even though he doesn't stay for that of the entirety of Total Drama, he can't help but enjoy his time here, to be honest. And we'll take that of all the good times and sad times here at Total Drama Island to heart, as he heads back to the mysterious tower to prepare for his journey to gain the power of waking. And that's it. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please tell me what you guys think in the comments below. Love to read what you guys have to say. Once again, I'm sorry guys. As much as I really wanted Sora to win for this one, trust me, I really did all the way. Even made that of the original script where Sora did win. But honestly, let's be honest. Sora is way too honest, innocent, and basically wouldn't manipulate people at all to basically get a victory in. Hell, he was willing to basically get rid of his immunity for Lindsay of all people for the bike race. That says it all, to be honest. So, yeah. At any rate, if you guys like this, please like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell notification key to date my videos when I upload the channel. Also, please check out my Discord, my gaming channel, my other channel, my side channel, my Patreon, and my Cash App. All link in description below. So, with all that said, this is Leon Mookie, signing out. Later, guys, and hope you all take care. Thank you so much for watching and staying to the end of the video.
But there's still so much on my love channel.
That's right, such as my other What If content and the most recent What Ifs as well.
Not to mention his playlist, where you can watch all of his other What Ifs.
Which, all said and done, this is Leon.
And Shiro.
And you're watching Leon Mookie.